a quick video on troubleshooting an AC unit. Now, I'm not an HVAC person, but I like to make videos like this just to help other people who might be in a similar situation as myself, because I always feel that the more you know, the better off you are. And if it's something that you can do to fix it, then go for it, because it always helps to be informed and you can save yourself some money in the process. So what's going on? Well, as many people know, I kind of like a warm environment. And what happened was last night, I was inside the house and I noticed that it was unusually warm. So long story short, I went over and checked the thermostat and it was showing like 80 degrees, which is warm. And I leave my blower motor running 24/7. So the blower motor was running. I could feel the air coming out. And at that point, I went outside to take a closer look at the AC unit. And when I walked up on it, I heard it trying to start. It sounded like a hum. It was kind of like a dun, and it would stop. My best interpretation of the sound anyway. But and it seemed to repeat this cycle like every few minutes. I'm not sure exactly how often, but I know it repeated itself and it kept trying every so often. So at that point, I did some research. And check for a link in the description below, because if I can find the video that helped me out, I'll post it. So that way I can help you out as well. But all the indications were that it pointed to a bad capacitor. Now, when you hear capacitor, you might be thinking, well, what is that? Well, it's kind of like a highly charged device that helps to kickstart the motors or whatever's needed. And in this case, when the capacitor goes bad, it doesn't have the juice to start the device. So that's kind of what was going on here. And I'm going to show you real quick, because this morning I got up early and took the AC unit apart to take a closer look at the capacitor. And I'm going to go look at this real quick and show you how I got to that area. It's not difficult at all, so don't feel like you necessarily have to call somebody in. The service call on something like this, as of today, is probably in that $300 to $350 range, whereas the cost of the part itself, depending on the capacitor you need, I was thinking it would be more like $10 to $20, but my capacitor was actually about $45, so it was a little more, but still far cheaper than $300. And I'm sure that the service tech would, or the company would, pass on the additional cost anyway. Two quick items to note. To begin with, this is the fuse that is inside the power adapter, which you should probably see sitting outside the AC unit, which is what I have right here. So if we look at that, you can kind of see up in there, that is where the fuse goes. So be sure that you take that out for safety reasons. And then when you come down here, the other thing to do, and it's always helpful, is to take a photo of the old capacitor. And you want to do so to be sure that you know where the wires go. That way you know how to put a new capacitor back in and it works out well. And really, one last thing to note is that with your old capacitor, what you may want to do is, because it can still hold a charge, so you want to take something with an insulated handle on it, like a screwdriver or maybe a pair of pliers, and while holding that handle, just touch these metal pieces, and that way it'll discharge any sort of charge that may be built up in here. So just something to think about. I want to be sure I point that out. Here's the backside of the AC unit. Now, depending on the unit you have, this could be a little different setup, but all you have to do is look for the electrical that comes in from the house. And you can see mine comes in right here, actually. And it comes over and then up into the AC. And the capacitor, which I already pulled out, was actually sitting right there. So it was just strapped in, that's all it was. And I removed a screw that was right there and pulled the capacitor out. Now, one telltale sign with this capacitor, and you can hook a voltmeter to it and check it as well, but when you look at this capacitor, if you look at the top here, you see how that's bowed out? I don't know how well we can see it on the video, but it's kind of like a soda can under a lot of pressure, and it's bowed. And that is a sign that this capacitor is bad. So all you really have to do is take a look at the information on the capacitor and you'll have some valuable information, which I think is called microfarads, which is right here. So you kind of have an upper limit and a lower limit, and then you have a plus minus tolerance here, which is good if you're using a voltmeter to kind of figure out you know, just how far off this thing is. But again, I can tell by looking at it that this is bad here on the top. So I went down to Grainger. Okay, so you can hit Grainger online if you don't have one that's local, and I picked up this right here. Now this is actually made, it's stamped with Dayton, and I believe Dayton is the brand that is made for Grainger. I could be off on that one, but at any rate, let me go ahead and get this out, and we'll take a closer look at it. So this is the new capacitor, and if you look at the top, and again, I don't know how well we can see this on the video, but it's flat. And that's the way it should be. It's flat on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in and reconnect the wires. But I really just want you to understand that this is not that difficult to do. So let's just make it happen. As you can see, I already put the new capacitor in. The strap that held the old one in was a bit too small for the new one, and that's perfectly fine. Again, what we're really focused on here is the rating of the capacitor itself. So these will come in slightly different shapes and sizes for the most part. They'll be round like this, but they might be bigger than your previous one, and it's not a huge deal. What I did is just took a little bit of, I think this is some old wire I had around. So you could see I just flattened it against the the screw right here, and then cinched it up with the strap itself. This isn't going anywhere. This will be just fine here. So with all that, I'm gonna go ahead, power this on, and we're gonna see if that does the trick. So I just turned the AC on, and heading outside to see the unit now, and I can tell it's running. So that did the trick. Simple, straightforward.